Hello, everybody, and happy Wednesday. Welcome to Moment of Presence. I am Michelle Barone, certified life coach, and I help my clients unconditionally understand, accept, and love themselves for who they actually are underneath all the baggage and, excuse my language, crap we keep lugging around from year to year, uh, and really getting to the deeper part of who you are. We are going to be adjusting a moment of presence. We're going to start today. It's going to be more conversational. There's going to be more guests. We're making Krista a regular. As you can see, she's here with us today. We really believe that bringing some of these complex topics to a more digestible level through conversation, our different experiences, our different perspectives is really going to enhance your time with us today in a moment of presence. So as you can see, I'm joined with Krista, who's going to be more of a regular moving forward. But Krista, why don't you introduce yourself?
Alrighty, well, I feel like my name was just said so many times in a couple minutes. But again, I'm Krista Barone. Not only am I Michelle's daughter, but as I am a operations consultant, and with that, I'm also a coach for my clients. But on the more personal side, I am a Reiki master, an aromatherapist, ordained minister, a spiritual student, healer of trauma, perspective haver, conversationalist, all sorts of things. So I am super thrilled to be here, and I can't wait for us to dive into these topics and just kind of go back and forth on them. I know a lot of spiritual topics tend to be really complex, like you said, and sometimes hard to digest, and so many people have different ideas and thoughts on how to handle things, and you and I actually think very differently. So I'm really excited for us to dive into some of this and just kind of chat even with the audience, with the viewers, and see what they have to say on these things, and just bring a little bit more fun to Moment of Presence.
Yes.
So I'm super excited about this topic today. I love the write-up that you wrote for it. I definitely can relate to stop, drop, and roll and quicksand. So I'm super excited to dive in today.
Well, and I just want to dive backwards for a second. So if somebody wants to get married, any of our guests or anyone watching, they can just give you a call because you're an ordained minister.
Yeah, I am able to perform weddings for people. I haven't yet, but it's just one of those things I felt called to do. It'll come in handy at some point. Who knows? But yeah.
Interesting segue into today's conversation, right?
Oh my God, you're right.
So today's topic is about useless lessons, experiences. But is anything that we learn, anything that we absorb, really useless? Any certification, is it really useless, or is it we're just maybe not utilizing it at the moment, or we don't know what it's going to be for eventually? So I don't know about you. And you mentioned stop, drop, and roll, and it's one of my favorite examples, and the quicksand one. The other one I have to say is, those forms that the teacher would hand out and say, okay, everyone keep it turned over. And when I tell you, flip it over and then read the instructions completely.
I was just thinking about that as you just said it. I fell for one of those. Thank you very much.
Yes. And I still, every time I go to fill out a form, I still think about the time that I didn't read all the way through and just started answering. And then at the bottom, it said, do nothing. So these are the things that we're talking about, the things that we learned throughout our lives that we thought had no meaning, that we would never use. And then again, they're so ingrained in us that we use them without thinking, that they've just become a part of us. And so that's what we're going to talk about. And, one of the things is when we use everything, right? Knowledge is power, right? Krista, like, seriously.
Absolutely. Oh my God, knowledge is everything.
Right. So if we use all of the knowledge that we've absorbed and apply it where we need to, if we stop, drop into our knowledge base and roll with the information, seriously, abundance is always on the other side of facing our inner world and really understanding who we are and what we've learned and how we can apply ourselves into this life. So if you know anyone that should be here right now listening to this conversation, take a second, share it out, make sure you like and subscribe as well, wherever you're watching us, whether it's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, we're all over the place, I think.
I'm going to share it myself right now.
As a matter of fact, Krista has made sure that we are all over the place because that is part of what is ingrained in her, is how to make that seem seamless, and it just happens. Krista, while you're sharing that out, I think that we should go through our breath work and bring everybody into the moment, a moment of presence. Being in the moment, not thinking about, oh my goodness, what just happened? Because listen, I just had some stress happen, but I'm not bringing it in here because I'm here in this moment. I'm not thinking about everything else I have to do this afternoon. I'm sitting here with all of you where I want to be in the moment. Hi, Raymond. Thanks for being here. So just in time for breath work. So we're going to do 3 quick breaths, not quick, 3 breaths. We're going to breathe in. We're going to hold it for a count of 5. And then we're going to exhale on a count of 5. All right. So please join us for 3 deep breaths. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How'd that feel?
You have such a melody to your voice when you're doing the moment of presence.
Thank you. Notice I slowed down even more at the end.
Yep.
Yeah. That's what brings us into the moment. Mm-hmm. So, what was the craziest thing that you learned that you never in a million years thought that you would be applying in your life?
This one's hard for me because I was the type of kid who just assumed everything that I was told was true and real and the way to do things. So I don't really, I think I truly believed everything I was taught was going to be useful. Maybe like working with other people, like in like group projects as a kid, because I always thought, what is the point of this? Because in a work environment, if you're not pulling your weight, there's going to be consequences to that. So this was a little bit difficult for me, but what was yours?
Well, it's funny because I sent out some texts last night to some of my friends, my walking buddies, just different people, my student group that I'm a part of. And I got back some really interesting things. So a couple people said percentages, which I think is so funny. And I never understood, like, why do I need that? I wasn't ever going to be like in sales or a cashier, or I would not ever need that. You do. You need it for a lot of things. Cursive writing. I don't even know if they're teaching that anymore. Fire drills. Somebody said we just all ran out of the building anyway, which I never had that experience. But I'll share an interesting story about that. Sewing a pillow and following a pattern. I remember doing that in middle school.
I wish we had that.
Yeah. See, you guys didn't have that. And then the other thing that I heard was electives that the person wasn't interested in. Like, you go, you sign up for certain electives, and then you don't get those. You get like a whole other group, and you're like, what am I going to do with this? I'm not even interested in this. And so those were some of the ones. But so for me, the fire drill whole thing, it wasn't just about being a part of the fire drill. It was the thinking of the planning of the fire drill. As you know, I love chaos. And so a fire drill, any drill really, is going to be chaotic. And I think the one that I learned the most from, believe it or not, was the active shooter drill that I had when I worked at the
Mm.
healthcare system,
Mm-hmm.
because it really made me understand now, as I'm looking back, how one, you have to take care of yourself.
Right.
You can only suggest things to people. You can't force them, because then you're spending, valuable seconds trying to save someone who might not want to be saved.
Right.
All of these things can be applied to how we live our life, right? And our relationships. And so I think it's really interesting, because I think about that drill. It was so real. I remember at one point, and I think, if you remember, I came home and, like, even talking about it, I had teared up, because
Right.
it was so real. I
Mm-hmm.
hate that we need those, but I do think that we should all go through some kind of a drill, because it prepares us. How prepared are we for hurricane season, which, by the way, starts tomorrow, believe it or not? So, how about you? I mean, even what you talked about, not
Well, as you were talking about fire drill, I will say I definitely think during tornado drills, and we used to have to hide under our desk, I would be like, if a I remember thinking, like, if a tornado comes through, what is the desk going to do? Like, if it comes through this room, I don't think the desk that's, like, I don't know, 15 pounds is going to help me much. But what was it? I had thought of something else too. Oh, a lot of the stuff that you were saying that other people answered is funny, because I have a reasoning in my mind of why those things are important. And it's funny because when I was in college, a big thing was when you're getting your degrees in like your bachelor's and below, they make you take basically the same concept as high school elective classes. And I thoroughly enjoyed mine. But there were a lot of people in my philosophy classes, Eastern thinking classes, that they're like, why do I have to be here? And it was this whole big conundrum that they couldn't fathom why, as they were a nursing student, they had to be in this class. Or if they're an engineer, why do they have to be in this class? And I remember sitting and thinking to myself, the reason you're asking right now is why you need to be in this class. That's why. Because you're only going to be exposed to engineering. You're not going to think anything else outside of that, or nursing, or veterinary, whatever it is.
right.
That's why you have to be here. So I think it's funny that that's something that someone answered, because for me, the way that my mind works, I can clearly see why that's important.
Well, and that's such a great point that you brought up about the elective things, and it's a little off topic, and maybe we'll have another conversation about this, about having to choose your degree. Like, now they're making you, like, actually sign a paper saying that this is the track you want to take, but you're, like, in middle school or your first year of high school. Who the heck knows what you want to do then?
Yeah.
I mean, I did. It's all I ever wanted to do, was be a mom, but still not the point. The point is that you have to be exposed to things. And when you're
Mm-hmm.
exposed to something, that's when you understand your likes and your dislikes. But if you only expose yourself to, this little bucket over here, then all you're ever going to know is this little bucket.
Right.
And then
And all you're ever going to have are the perspectives of that little bucket.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, Raymond, cursive isn't in common practice. Yeah, it isn't anymore. You ask your generation and even younger,
Below
like,
mine. We know
can
what's up.
can you sign your name? And the younger generation's like, I can write my name, I can print it. They don't understand that your signature is important. It's important for for banking, which most people do online now. Ask a 10 or a 12-year-old how to write out a check. I know.
You go, what's that?
Yeah, right. I learned that, like, in sixth grade. That was home ec, and I know that they don't really do home ec anymore, which they probably should. So yeah, I think that the important thing to take away from this is every lesson, every experience is for us. It's not done to us, it's done for us. And so the question is actually to ask yourself, what's my takeaway from this? Is this good? Is this bad? Who knows? Like, we don't know what the future holds. And we'll probably be able to apply what we're learning. We just don't know how yet.
Right. And I think that goes into, the concept of manifesting even. We don't know how it's going to happen, but we ask for one thing and it's not exactly the way we envisioned it, but it's what we asked for. And it's, maybe it's even a little bit preparing ourselves for that in the future, or teaching us that at such an internal level that we don't realize it, because so many times the things that we ask for, we get it, but it's not what we think it should look like.
Right. And that's very true. And that goes into, I think, kind of what I wanted to talk about was, why do we fight the lessons? Why do we have so much judgment? Like, we know better than the divine, whatever your God, universe, source, whatever it is you believe in, Buddha. We're all, we all believe in some type of a higher power. At least I think 99% of the people do. But why do we think that we know so much more than someone that, basically is kind of planned our life for us? Or
Right.
maybe it was even our higher selves, which is more, and I've shared this before on A Moment of Presence, that's what I believe. I believe my higher self planned this lifetime. I don't know how I planned that I was going to need to learn forgiveness or be able to become so good at forgiveness. Not everybody's perfect. But we can't even judge the how. We just have to put it out there and just receive what is going to be given to us, those lessons that are for us to make us a better person.
And a lot of these lessons we get over and over and over again. Take algebra. I loved algebra, so I didn't mind doing it. But you had to do the same sort of problems over and over and over again. When we did tornado drills, you had to do them over and over. They were quarterly, monthly, whatever it was. Stop, drop, and roll. That stuff was in cartoons. Quicksand was in cartoons. And I think there's something to be said about the repetition of those things and how it teaches us. You could give me an algebraic problem with an X and a Y, and I could do it right now because I've done it so many times that I know how to do it. If you told me stop, drop, and roll, inherently, I'm going to go into the process of stop, dropping, and rolling because it's so ingrained in my mind. And I think there's a lot of things that we can choose to learn and practice so that they become ingrained in our mind, so that when we do need them, they're right there. Stop, drop, and roll, I've never had to use in my life. Thank you, blessing. Thank you, universe, whatever you want to call it. But if I ever do need it, I know it.
But yet, like I kind of hinted to in the beginning, we do use it. We do, there's a fire. There's shit happening. There's drama. There's, a relational fire, right? We do have to stop. We should be stopping. We should be taking a moment. We should be thinking about, okay, what is the best way to handle this? And then rolling with it, applying it so that we actually put the fire out, which is the whole purpose of rolling, is to put the fire out so that you're not getting burned. So I think that a lot of the lessons that were taught very logically, if you put your creativity to it, don't wiggle in the quicksand. How can you apply that to life?
Right. Or it kind of goes along with the oxygen mask. Real quick, I have to talk about this comment. I'm sorry. That's what I was chuckling at. I'm so sorry while you were talking about stop, drop, and roll.
Okay.
The DARE program, I've never been offered drugs nearly as much as they said I would. That is hilarious. And as someone who fully believed everything I was told in the DARE program growing up, I'm right there with you. That was a harsh awakening to know that maybe wasn't the most truthful program in schooling and when I was a child. But anyway, back to what we're talking about with repetition. One thing I do want to, bring it into a more practical stop, drop, and roll with practical, and another practical way to look at this is like something like meditation. Someone said they also believed all of it. But meditation, there's a lot of people who wake up, or they'll start a practice. Let's say I'm going to meditate every day for 5 days. And then they have a really, really good day. So they say, you know what? I don't need to meditate today.
Right.
And then the next day starts out okay. So like, you know what? I don't need to meditate today either. And then a week later, they're in a pit of despair and have no idea how they got there. Well, you got there because you weren't doing your repetitions to keep you where you needed to be. And I think that's where it's like, that's the drop. All of these things come right back in because you need to have those things that you learn that become second nature to you.
Right. How many
My
days?
Reiki certification, second nature.
Right. Right. How many days does it take to build a habit?
I should repeat this more in my mind because remind me. 30 days?
30 days to create or break, actually, a habit. And so
I was thinking the 17 seconds of Abraham. So yes, I'm with you.
Well, yeah. Oh, 21 days. Thank you.
Okay, we're both right.
We're close. 30 makes it so that you really get it nailed down. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's, 21 days, but then an extra week to really make it solid.
I like it.
So I think that, leveling up and how do we raise our own standard, our own bar? You see where I'm going with this? We have to be committed. Mm-hmm. And that's also something that we learned in school, right? You can commit to a sport or extracurricular activity, but you have to keep your grades at a certain level or you're not going to be able to do that anymore. Mm-hmm. And there were kids that were so upset about that. Yeah. I'm not good at school. I just want to play football, or I just want to do this, or but you have to be well-rounded. You have to do your best. That doesn't mean that you're going to get straight A's. No one's asking you. Well, a lot of parents stress that. My kid has to get straight A's. I was always happy with a solid B. An A was amazing, but I was happy with a solid B, even if it went to a C. No one, and this was one of the things that I loved when someone told me, no one is going to ask you for your algebra grade in your corporate life, in your career. It just doesn't happen.
The one I love is, what the difference between a doctor that got all A's in college and a doctor that got all C's in college? Nothing.
Right. Exactly.
Nothing.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
But going back real quick to the sports thing too, mm-hmm. More than just being well-rounded, you never know what life is going to throw at you. You're an amazing quarterback now, but if you trip on something and break your femur, without applying yourself anywhere else, now you've got nothing to do. Now you have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
If you put effort in everywhere, because there's some people that say how you do anything is how you do everything.
Very true.
If you're only putting effort in one area and slacking off everywhere else, what happens when that one thing that you're devoting your entire world to is no longer there?
Yeah.
It may put you on a better path, but you start from scratch or start from where you are, which is already along the way.
So before I tell my next kind of little story, I want to ask everybody that's watching, and thank you guys for all being here. What was something that you learned in school that you didn't think that you'd use that you actually find helpful now, or that has become a lesson for you? What I was going to say is one of the things, and I, don't hate me, but, I was a cheerleader. And there's some people that love cheerleaders. There's some people that don't. What cheerleading taught me was to never give up. We cheered throughout the game. Even in the last final seconds, even though we were going to lose, we knew that we still had to encourage the team. And so it showed teamwork. It showed inspiration, perseverance, how to gain momentum, and to never think that you're down and out, because all it's going to take is one, right? One score, one this, one that. And so I think that, and my process to become a cheerleader was not easy. I didn't make it. I was an alternate. Through mishaps of other people, I actually got on the team. And so then I was even more, right, of a cheerleader, more proud, because it was so hard for me
Right.
to get on the team. And so I think that that whole process, right? The failure, every failure is a lesson. It's not a failure, it's a lesson. And I think that if that was taught more in school, not participation ribbons, but actually, okay, you didn't come in first, second, or third, but you know what? If you work out and you really practice, next time you're going to come in first, second, or third. And if you don't, that's okay. Maybe this isn't for you. Let's find something that is. And so there really is a lot to this, right?
I mean, it even goes so far as the way that kids today, even grown people today, are interacting with social media. Social media has been designed so that you get short bursts of
Right.
dopamine releases in your brain, but that makes it so that you don't have the patience to watch long videos anymore. Mm-hmm. Ever since TikTok became popular, which then became Facebook, also Facebook Reels and Instagram Reels and whatnot, I think the maximum length on those is like a minute and a half.
Right.
I found myself starting to not want to watch a video that was 5 minutes long because I was like, oh my God, let's get to the point. So I had to go through the process of almost like detoxing myself from social media because I found myself having that shorter attention span, which may not seem like a big deal, but it's a huge deal because that attention span goes into your willpower to stick with something. We see kids so often quitting things after the first attempt at it because they weren't perfect at it right away. Even grown people, they weren't perfect at it immediately. So, it's not for me. Yeah. That is never how I can't say never. That's 99.9% of the time not how someone becomes an expert or professional at something.
Yeah.
You have to stick with it. But we're kind of creating a culture, unfortunately, where everyone wants quick and easy dopamine hits, and
we're
seeing the outcome of it.
And there's a sense of entitlement, right? That you want the answer now, and and what about looking? What about looking it up? Oh my gosh! Oh, do you remember? Well, I don't know if you remember, but I know that some people that are watching will remember the vocabulary, right? The lessons. Look it up in the dictionary. And we had to look up the word in the dictionary, and then we had to write out the definition, and we had to tell whether it was a verb or an adjective, and we had to write it out, sometimes even in cursive. And I was like, but it's already in the dictionary. Why do I have to write this out? And it was because it was going to embed it in my mind of what feasible, logical, and practical were all about. And discombobulated, that's something I never thought I'd use. That's one of my favorite words. Or tenacity.
You just made me think of something. I finally thought of one. Multiplication quizzes, where you would have to go down the line. 3 times 3, 3 times 4. Those are easy ones. But there's calculators. What do I need to know this for? I was more interested in the algebra. Give me the algebra over the multiplication memorization.
Well, and bringing it back into what you said earlier about, algebra and the x plus y equals. Now, and I'm going to, kind of go a little spiritual out there for a minute. In alchemy, like there's certain things that you've got to understand. You got to understand the elements. You got to understand how they fit together. You got to understand what can go together and what cannot go together. And you have to understand how there's got to be equivalence and balance. And all of this is part of the universal laws. So who the heck knew that back then I'd be applying those lessons to something so cool as, alchemy and spirituality. So, I would challenge everybody watching to think about some of those lessons that you've learned that you take for granted and that you're now using every day, but you didn't realize it. And thank those teachers. And I'll give a quick call out to Miss Feig. At least she was Miss Feig back in the day. It's Hoffman, and she's on my Facebook page. She was my art teacher. And you know what she taught me? She taught me that there are no rules in art. You can color outside of the line, that you can be creative and you can make colors and mix and match, and it doesn't matter as long as it's you doing the work and being original. So thank you for that. Well, I know that we could talk like all day,
Yeah.
because we've actually done that on some videos that we've done, but we are out of time for this week. Join us next week when we discuss, what if the universe can't tell the difference?
I'm
Interesting.
excited about that one.
So, again, thank you all for being here. Thanks for being present with us today. Subscribe, like, share the videos out. Remember to join Calm the Chaos Facebook group, because there is going to be something new that we're going to announce very shortly. So make sure that you're going to be able to get the notification for that and participate and engage, because it's going to be a lot of fun. So today can be your best day or your worst day. You get to make a choice. Krista, what are you choosing today?
To make it the best day. Woo!
And if you are ready and wanting to get started with some coaching, go on over to mokshagrace.com and book a call. It's just a quick chat that we'll have and see how we can work together. And Krista, how can they find you if they're interested in operations?
You can go to wickedwisdomconsulting.com or look me up on Facebook with the same name, LinkedIn as well. You can also comment here and I'll get in touch.
Yeah. She has a way of making all things difficult, challenging, and like a spaghetti drawing, and she turns it into a one-click process. So
thank you so much.
She's amazing, and I don't know where she got it from, because it wasn't me. Oh, I like
Universal intuition.
There you go. I like that. So everybody have a great rest of your day. And again, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.